actually supposed to be on Wednesday, I believe, but I'll keep you guys updated. But for now, guys, let's go through some headlines. We have some very interesting headlines today. First, we're going to start with Prime Minister Modi's visit to Australia, followed by IAEA chief says he's concerned about Japan dumping toxic water from um, toxic nuclear water into the ocean. I think I'd be concerned too, but some people may not be. Hey, who knows, right? And then Los Angeles approves robot, like police robots, like police robots to go down the street. And then China bans major chip maker, US major chip maker. And then finally, we're going to end with what happened in Belgorod, Russia. Okay, so yeah, I was actually going to do something about the election in the United States. Uh, what's his name? The Floridian governor, DeSantis, said, you know, announces his presidential bid. I was going to talk about that, but I stopped because the last time I was going to talk about RFK Jr. running for president, and I got a warning from YouTube right after I posted something to do with election interference. So, um, yeah, that kind of spooked me. So, I'm not going to talk about the US election, even though it does affect the world, and this channel is about world news specifically. But news about the US elections will be thrown on your face every single day. So you're not going to miss anything, anyways. But if something does come out that we definitely have to talk about, then I'll talk about it, take the risk. But for now, there are many other things happening around the world. So today we have some really exciting headlines, as I said. So I haven't read this news, so we are actually going to go through all this together. So PM Modi's visit has strengthened the close relationship uh, Australia enjoys with India, Anthony Albanese. So I always like to mention the media. So Fast Post is definitely pro-Indian. So just to clarify, when it comes to the main media channels, whether they're magazine, websites, and or any of that, I don't think there's any such thing as independent. If you're a huge media channel on almost any platform, you'll definitely have uh you'll definitely be influenced by whatever country you belong to. That's just how it works. They're not going to just let you be like that. It doesn't work like that. Even though in some countries, media organizations have more autonomy than others, in reality, there's no such thing as fully autonomous. So anyways, so Fastpost is definitely pro-Indian, but I do like reading from them because you want to hear different perspectives on different issues. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi visit has strengthened the close and strong relationship that Australia enjoys with India, said Anthony Albanese. Australian Prime Minister went to say that the partnership of this country with India will deliver benefits for trade, investment, and business. I don't doubt that, but as I've said before, whatever they announced, they talked about, is just a small part, or they even didn't talk about that at all. So these are just press like releases, and they have to say this stuff all the time. But it actually makes sense that these two countries are closer, because first of all, I think they both share the Indian Ocean. I may be wrong on that, but they're kind of closer across the ocean from each other. And definitely, most of these countries need India. One of the reasons why, of course, is a very young population. India has a young population, younger than any Western nation or even Australia. So their labor is very valuable. I remember where Trump met with Narendra Modi the first time in the US, and he was telling Modi that they need more uh, Indian HB visa students going to the United States. And Modi was kind of putting brakes on it because that's brain drain, right? They're losing valuable mind, or they're losing young people who would otherwise be taking up jobs within the country. But usually they find a way to, kind of balance each other out. And India, on the other hand, needs Australia, I believe, as some sort of deterrence or balancing country against Chinese influence. So that's a high possibility. But I mean, why not expand business? It's good when countries get along. And Modi is also very good at these kind of things, like like being seen chatting out there. He does that, and I'm guessing Indian people like seeing him like that. He does have a lot of support, whether you like him or not. He does have a lot of support in India, and yeah, so they met. That's good. I hope it benefits both countries. So next piece of headline here: IAEA chief says concerns about Japan's dumping of nuclear contaminated water taken seriously. So when responding to concern that Japan's dumping of nuclear contaminated water on Monday, Rafael Mariano Grossi, International Atomic Energy Agency director, said nothing that is not in perfect compliance with international safety standards will happen. Grossi told the Global Times and other media outlets that IAEA takes all concerns seriously, looks at them in detail, and provides feedback from a technical perspective. Grossi is visiting China for the first time since assuming office as IAEA chief in 2019. Now, this is an interesting story. First of all, I've heard about it, but a lot of people haven't heard about it. Now, this is coming from Global Times, which is more or less directly connected to the Chinese government. So you can take it with a grain of salt. But uh, so they have a Japan's nuclear contaminated water uh, uh, disposal issue. I mean, we are living in funny times. They should be like ringing alarm bells like crazy. First of all, nuclear contaminated water. I mean, why don't you hold it in a reservoir? I mean, how much water is this? I'll look into this and I'll actually update you guys here very soon about this. This article is not as direct as I'd want it to be. So let's see. During a meeting with Grossman, Zhang emphasized that the discharge of Japan's Fukushima nuclear contaminated water. Oh, this is a nuclear power plant that had an accident in the sea is a major issue related to global marine environment and public health. I mean, I don't think the Chinese need to say this. I mean, I don't want to hear that contaminated water is getting dumped into the ocean. The IAEA is the most important governmental organization in the nuclear field. It hoped that the technical working group of the IAEA will hold an objective, impartial, and scientific attitude to conduct a rigorous review of Japan's dumping plan to ensure that the final assessment report fully reflects the opinions of experts from all sides and does not simply endorse Japan's discharge plan. What this sounds like is that they're going to do it anyway. Somehow they're going to do it anyway. And you would expect that all these environmental activists will go nuts about this. But I'll look deeper into this story. But the moment I saw the headline, I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about it even though I've not read it. I'm going to talk about it so that we both, we all come to understand exactly what's happening here. Because we know they had a nuclear accident. I don't know why this water is such an issue. I'll research that and we'll talk about it. But I'm not going to be drinking water from the sea anytime soon because, hey, Anyways, here is an article from RT. So RT is Russia Today, again, directly or indirectly controlled or owned by the Russian state. So always remember that. But the story itself is very interesting. The Los Angeles City Council has authorized the use of robotic dog devised by local police department despite protests from the residents and some dissenting council members. New York previously unveiled similar tech and faced major public backlash. City lawmakers voted 8-4 on Tuesday to approve donation of a quadruped unmanned ground vehicle. Oh God, I love these terminologies. Quadruped unmanned ground vehicle. So now we're being introduced here to a new abbreviation. Is going to be called QUGV. We're going to be walking around for the next few years complaining about QUGV, quadruped unmanned ground vehicles, to the LAPD from the nonprofit Los Angeles Police Foundation, which supplied the 277,000 robot in force free of charge. That's a very expensive dog, I would say. Look at this picture. Even the dog being held by the officer is like, what the hell is this damn thing? Oh boy. So, designed and manufactured by Boston Dynamics, the robotic dog is capable of navigating terrain and buildings autonomously and can be equipped with a wide range of surveillance gear, sensors, and other payloads for police. It's generally intended to use in dangerous situations that could put officers at risk, acting as an extra set of eyes and ears for the department. I understand what they mean here, that, the purpose of drones, especially in warfare, one of them, not all of them, but one of the main purposes is, not to lose soldiers, And when they say it this way, they kind of make sense that putting, a robot where an officer would go to avoid the officer being killed or injured. I gotta say, though, there's something very strange about robot dogs running around the street. I mean, things can be that bad, but there should be other solutions and ways of dealing with most of these issues than having drones running around. Because let me tell you one thing. Most of the times, this is how it starts. And I'm not talking about movies, because I know movies talk about how eventually AI and robots take over and they think that humanity is supposed to be eliminated because we are virus or something like that. I forget that they have a name for it, where either an AI or a robot figures out that we are actually the biggest danger and they end up wiping us all out. No. I'm not talking about all that. I'm talking about the fact that, I don't know, it just feels strange because this is how it starts, as I said. It's robot dogs with cameras. All of a sudden, we have robot dogs with guns. All of a sudden, we have flying robots with guns. All of a sudden, our mayor is a robot. I'm being facetious, of course, but you get what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what to say about that. You guys tell me. You guys tell me what you think about you looking through your window and seeing a robotic dog walking around. Oh man. Nowadays news they almost like every time I go looking for news, I'm just always surprised at the stuff that's out there. Years ago, some of these things would have been like, what? Now people are like, we got robot dogs walking around the streets. Anyways, let's go to the next headline here. And this is about no, I don't want to create a free account. So again, BBC, they're reported to be publicly owned by the public, but as I said earlier, there's no such thing as independent mainstream media. That no way. So China bans major chip maker Micron from key infrastructure projects. China says products made by the US memory chip giant Micron Technology are a national security risk. The country's cyberspace regulator announced on Sunday that America's biggest maker of memory chips poses serious network security risks. It means the farm products will be banned from key infrastructure projects in the world's second largest economy. It is China's first major move against the US chip maker as tensions increase between Beijing and Washington. The announcement is the latest development in deepening row between the US and China over technology crucial to economies around the world. So far, this news piece is fine. They haven't still thrown their opinions out there, so this is technically, reporting. But these countries are going to go, the US and China, they're going to go back and forth with this. These chips are very important. But a few days ago, I ran into a YouTube channel that was talking about chips. It was basically like an open mic session where all these guys were talking about chips and how they work, their connection to war and all that and all that. And I promise you, it's way more complicated than we were told it is. The Oh shoot, you guys almost can't see this, right? Yeah, it's way more complicated than we have been told it is. Apparently, the most rare chips are the smallest chips, and the smaller they are, the more energy you save, and obviously you can put it in, But the chips they're talking about are not that super necessary to us consumers as much as we think they are. Most of these things are for like future projects and things like that. But listen, I'm not an expert. I may be wrong about all that, but that's what I gathered from a group of people who seem to know what they're talking about. But so they're going to go back and forth about this. So, as I understand it, the history behind this was when the United States and China kind of normalized relations uh, back in the day during the days of Mao Zedong, which is probably the 70s, sometimes the 70s, I can't remember the date. Part of the deal was technology transfer, right? Because the Chinese were having a difficult time getting technology from the Soviets after Nikita Khrushchev uh, became the dominant leader in the Soviet Union. They fell out with the Chinese, and part of what Khrushchev was denying the Chinese was technology. I don't know what Khrushchev was thinking. He may have some real concerns or not, who knows. But the US successfully courted China towards the end, and I believe the differences between the Chinese and the Soviets may have easily caused the eventual collapse of the dissolution. People say collapse, I say dissolution because they sat down and decided to dissolve it. So I'll use the term dissolution. So the rift between the Soviets and the Chinese may have easily contributed to the dissolution of the Soviet Union. But to woo China to the American side was not easy. So the biggest carrot that the US dangled in front of the Chinese was technology. And China did benefit a lot from technology transfer. But I think, now this is me just talking, right? This is just my opinion, I think eventually China became very successful. Not only because of US technology, obviously. The Chinese are very hardworking people. They work hard to build their nation. I'm not going to take that away from them. But mainly because the Chinese develop very, very fast, and the US figures that if they keep technology moving back and forth that easily, China may become too powerful. Secondly, it's China had this thing where they were calling Made in China 2030 or something like that. And what it is China was is striving to become absolutely independent when it comes to chip manufacturing, and that obviously would cut US as a supplier and all that. So they're going to go back and forth about this. Within our lifetime, we're going to see a lot of back and forth when it comes to technology and chips. But at least they're not, it's not turning into hot conflict. So as long as they play these games, doesn't affect me. But this is major news because I know these back and forth games they play with each other will eventually start affecting us. So anyways, that's it about this technology here, technology news. Finally, we go to Belgorod in Russia. So this is CNN. As I said, they may say they're independent, but there's no such thing as independent mainstream media. Basically because, as I said, come on, we all know how it works. I don't even have to go into the details. But anti-Putin Russians say they launched a cross-border attack from Ukraine. Here's what we know. The images are arresting Russian fighters aligned with Ukraine crossing the border into Belgorod region, seizing a checkpoint and sowing confusion and anger in Moscow. Residents of the settlement attack in Russia Belgorod have been settled in other areas as authorities continue to clear the territory after the cross-border incursion that launched in Ukraine. Regional Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov said on Tuesday. But questions linger about the groups behind the attack, how it took place, and what it means for the war. So this is the media acting confused. Of course we know what it is. Like, it's one of those things where everybody knows what the truth is, but we don't talk about it, right? So they know exactly what happened. So they're these guys who call themselves Russian, like rebels or something, or anti-Putin forces, and they've done this before in Belarus. They attacked like one of those, one of those big planes with a big radar at the top. I forgot what the name, like AWACS or something, but they're supposed to fly up and and monitor the air. They tried to attack one of those, but apparently it wasn't destroyed and flew off and got fixed or whatever. And some other incursion as well. Now, obviously, there are a lot of Russian speakers who may have issues with the Russian government, and putting a force together like this is not difficult, but you can't tell me that they were all Russian. I bet there were so many Ukrainians involved. The last news I saw was talking about 100 of them. I saw a video where they had one tank, but I don't think that tank actually crossed the border. It'll be very difficult to run away with the tank. And I didn't see videos of the tank being destroyed. But there were about 100, I believe, a little bit over 100. And the Russians claimed that they had killed 70, which is possible, but I'll take that with a grain of salt as well. And the Ukrainians, so I saw those apparently anti-Russian Russians. I don't know, I can't remember the name they use. They were saying that they didn't lose a single person, but that's actually not true. I don't think so. Mainly because the moment we heard about that incursion into Belgorod, there were videos of Russian Su-24s flying, and another video showing the same Su-24s like throwing like unguided munition towards whatever positions, and we saw like trucks broken down. So there may be less than 70, but I don't think it's zero. I wouldn't believe that 0 people died in that incident. And the question then is, because CNN here pretends they don't know like they don't know why. I saw a video that those guys, when they went into Belgorod in Russia. They wrote some graffiti saying, hi from Bakhmut. So I believe that's where the answer lies. After the Russians or the Wagner forces took control of Bakhmut, I don't think anybody right now is confused about it. I think the Wagner people or the Russians have total control of Bakhmut. I don't think that's a debate right now. But hey, who knows? But as far as I know, they control Bakhmut. Now, there's a high possibility that this was done to take attention from their loss of Bakhmut. And if that is why the Ukrainians did it, it was definitely successful because this is all what you're seeing all over YouTube. And there's something also I came to understand about how these two countries fight. So the main fear that the Russians have is losing a huge number of troops. They really don't want to take their losses. And the main fear Ukrainians have is the West stopping, the delivery of weapons or the sending of weapons. That's one of the concerns, the main concerns that they have. As I think is the foreign chief of EU, Joseph Borrell, said, if they stop delivering weapons to the Ukraine will be done in a few days. And I believe that to be true because you need munitions to fight. This war is very munition intensive. It's eating munition like crazy. Like these guys fire the Russians fire like 50,000 rounds a day or some insane number like that. So it's eating up ammunition like crazy. And the Ukrainians, even though they don't have as much shells, they're definitely, as the last time I heard, they're firing over 5,000 a day, which is quite a lot. Some countries don't produce 5,000 shells in a year. So that's quite a lot too. So I think that's why they went in. So nobody in their right mind thinks that Ukraine was invading Russia and permanently holding ground. You can't do that without air cover, without a whole bunch of artillery and an insane amount of soldiers. Like you would need a huge number of soldiers to hold down. It would not be wise. It would not be wise to do that. There also, I've seen some theories also that they were doing that so that the Russians can transfer their soldiers from within Ukraine to Belgorod. I don't think so. And the reason why I don't think so is because the Ukrainians know Russia is going to focus on what they call the special military operation. They're not going to change their mind. They're not going to change their strategy easily. It'll be very difficult. Secondly, within the country itself, they already have a lot of troops. I was reading somewhere that they have like a reserve of about 150,000 who are not at home. I'm not talking about the ones at home. I'm talking about the ones already in uniform and in barracks, all in reserve. So I don't think they would need to move troops like, let's say, Bakhmut or the south of Ukraine to go defend Belgorod. No, I think they have enough troops to do that themselves. So I think that the main goal of this was to basically take the headlines. And the reason why the Ukraine needs the headline, the Western public needs to see them doing something. If they don't see them doing something, they'll start questioning why their governments are still in this. So the public will lose interest. You need the public to still, and that's not Ukraine alone. Even Russia has to have its public still interested in the conflict. But as far as I know, the Russians don't have that much of a big problem because, I mean, that's their country and those are their people. Ukraine has a bigger problem, not within their own country, but the Western countries that are supplying these arms. So they have to keep them interested. You remember they were talking about, or the Ukrainians were asking Elon Musk, how come you have less Ukrainian flags on people's profiles on Twitter? And Twitter had to explain to them that, it's natural. Like, people don't have such a long attention span like that. No, they people get bored. Other things come up, and people have bills and jobs to go to, so other things come up, and they stop being interested. But that's what I think. Whatever you guys think, you can tell me. And lastly, here I have a video to play for you here. Um, it's basically some Humvees that apparently were shot in Russia. They were part of the vehicles that went into Belgorod, Russia. So, anyways, enjoy, guys. See. I don't know, but I like the way Humvees look. They look like these stocky things that just roll across the horizon. Um, that's it for the headlines today. For you guys on YouTube, please remember to subscribe, and I'll be coming up with more updates here shortly. So thank you again, dear friends, and have a good day. All right. So for the rest of us, let's